Hello everyone, welcome to my channel Test Code Automate. So this is my 29th video for the Playwright with TypeScript series. In this video, I would be covering that how to debug test with the Playwright VS Code extension. So apart from debugging our test with the Playwright VS Code extension, there are some more ways that we can debug our test in Playwright. So we can use Playwright Inspector, or we can use Playwright UI mode to debug our test. We can also use Playwright TraceViewer to analyze our test. So about these different options, I would be talking into the separate videos. For now, let's continue with this option of debugging test with the Playwright VS Code extension. So first question arises here that what is debugging? So debugging a test script is the process of finding and fixing errors in a script. With the VS Code extension, you can debug your test right in VS Code, see error messages and create breakpoint and live debug your tests. So let's see the practical example that how to debug your test with the Playwright VS Code extension. So let me open the VS Code. So here I have already created one test script file, which is debugpractice.spec.ts. And here I have created these two tests, where in the first test, I'm just verifying the title after opening the application. So for this particular video, I'm going to use this application, which is demo.nopcommerce.com. So after verifying the title of the application in the first test, in the second test, I'm verifying successful login verification. So in the second test, we are entering the correct email ID, then the password, and then I'm clicking onto the login button with the help of this script. And once we are logged in, we are checking that this logout button is appearing here or not. And after checking it, we are clicking onto this logout button. And once we click onto this logout button, our application will get logged out and this login button should be displayed. So this is the scenario which we are verifying into the second test. Okay. So let me start the execution for these two tests. So let's go to this testing tab. And here let's run this particular test script file, which is debugpractice.spec.ts. So we can directly click onto this run test. So it will execute both of these tests, right? First one is this title verification and second one is successful login verification. So click onto the run. So it will verify these two tests and the second test will get failed. Let it fail. Then I will tell you why it is getting failed. Okay, so purposefully I have failed this particular test. Okay, so see that it got failed. We are able to see the error message here in the VS Code only. And what is the error message? So here it is saying that strict mode violation get by text login resolved to two elements. So here the locator which we have created is resolving into two elements, right? And these are the two elements. First one is the anchor tag and second one is the button. Okay. And if I click here onto this particular line and go to this browser, so here you would be able to see that two elements are getting highlighted. See, first one is this one and second one is this one. So in the Playwright, if locator is detecting more than one element, so it will give this strict violation error, right? So now to resolve this, what we will have to do, we will have to put the locator, which will just give the single element, right? And with the help of that, it would be able to perform any action on it. So that we will have to correct. So for that, what we will have to do, we will have to change this particular locator. So to detect the locator, you can directly click onto this pick locator. Okay, and then go to the application. So this login button we want to detect. So if you will click onto it and go to the VS Code, here you would be able to see this new locator which got generated. And this is the unique locator. You can hit enter to copy it and then you can change it here. So in that way, you would be able to correct your test script, right? So this is one way that after executing your test, you would be able to see the error message. Okay, and then and there only you would be able to correct your error, right, into the script. And the same thing we can do while debugging our test. And how we can do that? So for that, let me show you that how to debug our test, right? So let me close this particular error. You can click onto this cross icon here to close the error. If you again want to see the error, you can re-click here. Okay, it will again show the error. Okay. So to debug our test, there are different options from where we can start our debugging. So first way is that we can go to our test block, right? And in front of that, you would be able to see this icons here. If you will right click here, you would be able to see this run test, debug test option. So if you want to debug your test, you can click on it and it will start debugging your test. Okay. The second way to debug the test script is that from the left hand navigation into this testing tab, you can directly click onto this debug test. So whatever the test which you want to debug, you can click on it. Or if you want to debug the whole test script file, you can click onto this debug button for that particular test script file. And the same for the complete test suite, if you will click here, so it will start debugging the whole test suite. Okay. At the top also there is this debug button to start debugging for the complete test suite. And one more thing, so before debugging your test script, we need not to click onto the show browser. If it is clicked, that is also okay, but it is not necessary to click onto the show browser. If we are debugging a particular script, automatically it will open the browser for that. Okay, so let me uncheck this option. Okay, so before proceeding further with the debugging, there is one more thing which we will have to do, is to put the breakpoint. So what is the breakpoint? So let's say if we want to stop our execution at a particular point, right? So we are debugging and we know that while executing our test script, our script got failed at this particular point. So what I will do, I will put a breakpoint here. So to put the breakpoint, what you need to do, you need to go to that particular line, okay? And in front of line number, you would be able to see this red dot once you mouse over. So you just need to click here. So it will put a breakpoint here. See, we are also able to see this tooltip of breakpoint right here. So once we put the debug point for the particular line of code, so what will happen? Once we execute our test into the debug mode, so at this particular breakpoint, our execution will get paused. Okay, so it will execute your test till this particular point, till line number 13, and wherever you have applied this breakpoint, at that point the execution will get paused. Okay, and then you would be able to analyze your test script also at this point. So let's execute our test script into the debug mode. So for now, I'm just executing this particular test only. So I'm right clicking here and then clicking onto this debug test. So now the execution will start, okay, and automatically the browser will open, although we have not selected this show browser option. So see, execution got paused at this particular breakpoint, right? So what it did, it started the execution, it opened this particular URL into the browser, okay. So by default, we have selected the Chrome browser. So there it opened this particular line, okay, and then it entered the email ID and then the password. And then for the login button, if you will click here, so see, you would be able to see two elements are getting highlighted because our locator is not unique. Okay, and once it paused on to this particular line, see, our left hand navigation got changed and automatically it opened this run and debug option, right? So here you would be able to see all the options related to the debugging. And at the top, if you will see, we have got one tool where we are seeing the different option to continue our test script. We can step over into our test script, right? We can also stop our test script. These are the options related to the step into or step out of the particular method or the function. You can also move this particular tool at your desired location on the top. Okay. So here, as we know that at this particular line, we are getting failure because this locator is detecting two elements, right? And to correct it, what we need to do, we need to change this particular locator. So either you can create the locator manually by opening this developer tool, or we can use this pick locator option to detect the correct locator. So let's use this pick locator option. So here, let's go to this testing tab again. Okay, and here we can click onto this pick locator. And here, once you will go to the browser, you can directly click onto this login button which you want to detect. Okay, and once you click and go to the VS Code, so here you would be able to see that unique locator got generated. Okay, you can hit enter here to copy that particular locator, and here we can change that locator, right? So let me change this locator. So get by text I'm removing, and I'm just pasting that new locator which got generated, right? So here we have detected the locator with the help of this pick locator tool. About this pick locator tool, I have already talked into my previous video. If you have not watched that video, that how to use this pick locator, I will provide the link of that particular video into the description, or you can click onto this I button at top right corner to access that video. Okay. So now we have corrected our test script right at this particular point. So if you will click here onto this line again and go to the application, so see here only the single element is getting highlighted because we have put the unique locator here. And here one more thing I would like to add. So once you execute your test into the debug mode, so automatically it opens this tool, right, which is run and debug. Okay, and here in the left hand navigation, you would be able to see this variable section. So whatever the variables which you are using into your test, you would be able to see here with their value. Okay, into this variable section. You can expand and collapse it also. And here this watch section is also there. So let me tell you that what is the use of this watch. So here into this particular test at line number 11, I have just given this code which is page.url, where I am collecting the value of this URL into one variable. Okay, this is the variable name. So let's say if I want to add this variable into the watch section. So for that, what I'll have to do, I can click onto this variable. Okay, I can select this variable. Then I need to right click and then I can click on add to watch. And as soon as I add this particular variable here into the watch, I would be able to see that variable with its value. I can also add the expression here. Let's say if I want to directly add this page.url, right? So you can select that expression here directly. Okay, and then you can right click and then you need to select this add to watch option. So see, directly it is giving this expression, right? And here you would be able to see that whatever the value of that particular expression. So if you add anything into this watch, you not have to add it every time, right? Automatically you would be able to see its value whenever you execute your test, right? And if you just want to use these expression one time, and if you just want to see the value single time only, so in that case, you can directly use this particular option. So once you right click here, you would be able to see this evaluate in Debug Console. And once you click here, so you would be able to see that particular expression or the variable here with its value, right? Apart from this, there is this breakpoint section is also there. So here you would be able to see that what are all the breakpoints which you have put into your test scripts. So let me put some more breakpoints. So see here, you would be able to see those breakpoints with the file name and the row and column value where this breakpoint is given, right? And if there are multiple test script files, that also you would be able to see here, right? So now let me stop this debugging. So to stop the debugging, what you need to do, you need to click onto this square red box, right? Or you can press Shift plus F5 to stop the debugging. Okay. So once I click here, so see the debugging has stopped, and here all those variable and the watch options are gone now, right? Because we have stopped the debugging. So now as we have fixed our test, so let's start the execution directly. So to start the execution, you can directly click here to run your test. Although your breakpoints are still there, but if you will directly run your test, so execution will not get paused at these particular breakpoints, right? So let me start the execution. So once I start the execution, so at this time, there should not be any error, okay? And it should be able to execute it successfully, where it will log in into the application, right? And then it will check that logout button, and then it will click onto the logout button. And once it click onto the logout button, it will verify the login button again. So see, our test script got passed here, okay? And there are no errors. And also our test did not got paused at these breakpoints because we executed our test directly using this when test. Okay, and if you will use this debug test, in that case, your test will get paused for the given breakpoints. Okay. And if you have put the breakpoints at so many points, so directly you can come here and you can click on to this remove all breakpoints. So all the breakpoints from the multiple files will also get removed. And one more thing I would like to add. So here, once we started the execution into the debug mode, so by default, the Chrome browser got opened. But let's say if you want to debug into the Firefox browser, so for that, what you will have to do. So here, once you will go to this testing tab, so at the top, there is this debug option, right? Beside it, there is this arrow. So if you will click onto that arrow, so here you would be able to see all the browsers which you have configured into your playwright.config.ts file, right? So for now, we have configured these two browsers only. So we are able to see this Chromium and Firefox browser. And here we are able to see this select default profile option. So from here, let's say if you want to debug your test every time into the Firefox browser, so you can check this Firefox only, okay, and you can uncheck this Chromium, and then you can click onto the OK. So now if you will run your test into the debug mode, so in that case, it will start your execution onto the Firefox browser. Let me show it to you. Let me put a debug point at line number 13, or at any point you can put, okay. And once you start it, so here it will start the execution into the Firefox browser, right? And it will get paused at this particular point. So see, the execution got stopped at this point. So it has entered this email, okay. Let me click onto this line number 12. So it will show that where it entered, right? And if you will click onto this line number 13, so it will highlight this password field. See, here it is highlighting this password field. Okay. And here I can also step over. So once I click onto this step over option, so it will go to the next line, right? Let me click onto this step over option. So if you want to execute each line one by one, so you can use this step over option. And if you directly want to continue, so you can click onto this continue. So it will either execute the whole script if there is no breakpoint after this, or if you put breakpoint, let's say at line number 17, I am putting the breakpoint. Okay, at any particular line you can put. And if I click onto this continue button, so what will happen? Your execution will continue till this line, till line number 16. And at line number 17, it will get paused again. Okay. So see here, I've clicked onto this continue button. So now the execution should get paused at line number 70, at this line where we have put the next breakpoint. Okay. And if you will use this step over, so one by one, it will go to the each line. Okay. And the execution will happen like this. So it depends which options you want to use into your test while debugging. Okay. And see here, our execution got paused at line number 17 because we have put the next breakpoint here. Okay. And if I will continue here, so execution will get completed successfully. Okay. And see, it got passed here. The same thing you would be able to see here into the debug console. And when we run our test in the normal mode, we are able to see the details here into the test results section, right? But if we debug our test, so in that case, we would be able to see execution related details into this debug console. And here one more thing I would like to add. So here we have used this debug into the plain script, right? But into our actual project, we would be using a page object model in most of the cases, right? So in that case, let me open one more script, which is debug practice underscore cart verification underscore forms. So for this particular test, we are using page object model where we have created different page file for the different pages which we are using into this test, right? So see here, you would be able to see this login page.ts or homepage.ts. So that's what we have created. And there we have put all the properties or the methods which we are going to use. And here into our test script file, we are just calling those methods or the properties into this test script. And here, let's say if you want to put a debug point for this login method at the password field, right, where we are entering the password. So for that, what you can do, you can control click onto this method. Okay, it will take you to that method. And you can put a debug point. Let's say if you want to put the debug point at line number 24, where this password field is getting filled. I'm just considering a scenario that it is not able to enter the password because of any error, right? So in that case, if you want to put a debug point here, you can click in front of that line number. Okay. And here, see, for the test, we have not put any debug point, but for that page file, which is login page.ts, inside this login method, we have put the breakpoint. Okay. And if I will run this particular test, so automatically once this method will get called, so it will come here, and by looking at this breakpoint, it will get paused. So let me execute my test script into the debug mode. Okay, so to execute our test script, let's go here. This time I will execute the test script from this option. Okay, any option you can use. There are multiple ways you can start your execution into the debug mode. Okay, so let me click here. So this time it will execute into the debug mode for the Firefox browser, because by default we have selected the Firefox just now, right? So see, browser got opened. Okay, and it opened that application. It entered the username. But as we have put the debug point here at line number 24, where we are entering the value into the password field, it got paused, right? And accordingly, you can debug your test if there are any errors with the locator or with the data, or any error can be there, right? So you can fix that particular issue with your test script, and then you can continue with your execution, right? Let me stop the execution again. So yeah, that's it for this particular video. Let me give you the quick recap. So here we talked that we can use VS Code extension to debug our test, right? And with the help of debugging, we can find the issues and fix those errors into our test script. And to start the debugging, what you need to do, first you need to put the breakpoint wherever your test is getting failed while execution. Okay. By clicking onto front of these numbers, you can put the breakpoint. And then you can start the execution into the debug mode. So to execute your test into the debug mode, you can right click onto particular test. Okay, and then you can click here onto the debug test option. And here into this testing tab also, you would be able to see this debug option. for the particular test script file or for a particular test or for the whole suite, you can use this debug test option. Okay. And here you can also select the default browser where you want to debug your test, which will be configured into playwright.config.ts. About this configuration, we have already talked into my video related to the configuration of this playwright.config.ts. If you have not watched that video, I would recommend you to watch that video. I will provide the link of that video into the description, or you can click onto this I button at top right corner to access that video. And once you execute your test into the debug mode, so it will start the execution, and at this breakpoint, your execution will get paused, so you can do your analysis and fix your issues. And once you start the debugging, you would be able to see this tool at the top where you would be having the different options. See here, the execution got paused at the breakpoint, and here into the tool, we are able to see these different options. So this continue option, if you will click onto the continue option, it will proceed further with the execution. And if your test script is not having any new debug point into the next lines, so your execution will get completed. If you are having any new debug point into the next lines, your execution will get paused in this case, right? There is this second option, which is the step over options. So if you want to go to each step one by one, so you can use this step over option. Okay. And if you want to stop your execution, you can click onto this stop option. So these are the main options which you can use into this particular tool. And here into the left hand navigation, we talked about these different section, right? Where we would be able to see variables into this variable section. We can add different expression into this watch section. And here we would be able to see different breakpoints which we have put into our test scripts. And if you execute your test into the debug mode, you would be able to see execution related details into the debug console. Let me stop the execution. So yeah, that's it from my end. You can click onto the first card to go to the next video. You can click onto the second card to access the whole Playwright tutorial playlist, and stay tuned for my upcoming videos. If you have any comments, questions or doubts, you can let me know into the comment section below. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Have a great day.